Hi, I'm Chris Stening, Senior Advisor at 8 Advisory, and I'm really pleased to be here today with John Irvine. For those of you who don't know, John is the CEO of Wight Fibre. I'm really looking forward to talking to John because Wight Fibre is one of the more mature, more established altnets and providers, and is probably now experiencing some of the challenges that others will find maybe in a year or two's time. We're going to talk about altnet take up. We're going to talk a bit about cohort, or in John's case, around the demographics, bit about Openreach and overbuild, and then finish off on churn. So, John, welcome. Thanks for taking the time. If you'd like to just tell us a bit about White Fibre and your history to get us going, that'd be great.
We are more mature. We're 25 years old next
Wow.
year. In fact, technically, we already are. We connected our first customer 25 years ago, next January. So we were an HFC network, the last independent cable company in the UK. And since 2017, after some investment from Infracapital Partners, we were one of the first full fibre rollouts, slightly ahead of the curve with a distinct geography serving only the Isle of Wight. We're in the fortunate position of having completed our rollout. So we are at 87, 88% premise coverage on the island with about another 6,000 premises to go, nearly all of them subject to way leaves, MDUs, things like that. So in that sense, we're ahead of the curve. We've finished our rollout and we are focused on, and always have been focused on acquiring customers.
Cool. Okay. In our report, we looked at the sort of average altnet take up and we showed it was now at about 20%. So it's continuing to rise. Openreach at 36%. Clearly, there's a slightly different demographic. Where are you seeing sort of take up on the Isle of Wight?
Last month, we just connected our 25th thousandth customer. So that takes us to a point of a percentage below 35% penetration. That's a good number. We're adding, the guts of 1% a month. Some months maybe only zero point 0.8, zero point 0.9, or even zero point 0.7 if the sun shines too much. We're doing well in customer acquisition. We've, built a really strong local brand, a huge emphasis on outstanding customer service. We have it in our logo because we care. That culture permeates the whole business and informs everything we do. So we're doing well on customer acquisition, expecting to continue to do so.
That's interesting because one of the questions we get asked is, does it sort of get to a percentage and then tail off? But it sounds like you're just seeing continued growth.
I don't know where the line is, but I am expecting it to get harder at some
Yeah.
point. Is that harder when you hit 40%, 45%? The jury's out on that. We have pockets of 45 to 50% share. We're not really seeing the rate of customer acquisition slow down there, but we are seeing, and this goes to the next point, we're seeing some demographics where we're underpenetrated. Older people with less of a need for broadband and younger couples and young families who buy bundles, buy packages.
Yeah. I remember when we talked before, you said you don't really look at the cohorts because of, how properties are released, but you did say demographics were quite an important factor. Can you just expand a bit more on that?
We don't see a difference on age of cohort, partly because you don't actually release a whole area in one go. It can take 1 or 2 years or even longer to release an entire area. Engineering difficulties, build challenges, and all the rest. Like I just said on demographics, we're underpenetrated amongst less well-off young families. Those are the people that don't have a lot of disposable incomes. Their Saturday night entertainment is at home with Sky TV, with a takeaway. Therefore, they buy Sky. They buy Sky broadband along with that because it's the most effective way to do so. And that market, unless you're going to sell your broadband for £18 or less, if you've got Sky TV, they'll sell you full fibre broadband for £18, 18.95. We don't at this point in time. Maybe we're going to have to address that segment, or we do something around a TV. And we know that that market's evolving rapidly at the moment. As that market fragments, everyone moves their TV viewing to streaming and less dependent on Sky, unless you're a massive sports fan. The older demographic is a challenge. Their use of the broadband, where they are using it, isn't as sophisticated, less demand for higher bandwidths, and also a real inertia there. That's the segment that still thinks they're buying their phone line from the post office, although that's a bit of a damaged brand these days. Nevertheless, there's inertia there. We even launched a product, started this year, a phone line only product. So we were installing full fiber connection just to supply the customer with a phone line. And we're able to do that because actually a phone line only from BT, horrendously expensive, similar to the cost of a full fiber broadband connection.
Really? Well, I suppose as you sort of go over the classic adoption curve and you get into the sort of early and late majority and the laggards, you just have to rethink what you offer and how you offer it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that we looked at on our report was the impact of overbuild. And I know that you've had some experience of Openreach overbuilding you in the Isle of Wight. Just interested to hear a bit more about that because there's some interesting stuff in there, I think.
Yeah, interestingly, the town of Cows that I mentioned earlier, Openreach overbuilt us in that town with full fiber, went live with it in September 2021. And we actually saw a slight uptick in the rate of customer acquisition there as Openreach helped us educate the market about the topic of full fiber. We moved on from needing to educate people about full fiber since then, but nevertheless, they actually helped us increase our rate of customer acquisition way back then. So where we've been overbuilt, we don't see a loss of market share. In cows, as I mentioned earlier, 45 to 50% market share in most areas of cows, way above our average of 35. That's despite the fact that Openreach full fiber is widely available.
Yeah, that sort of bucks the trend that we were seeing. We were seeing a slight reduction in take up where you had overbuild, but also who got there first was quite a significant factor. So I'm guessing you guys were there first.
Yeah, we're first everywhere. 78,000 prems in the island. We have a Toby outside, 72,000 of them. Openreach can serve roughly 21, 22,000 and have only stated a target of 47,000 by the end of 2026. So a very slow rollout of Openreach full fiber on the island, which has given us first mover advantage, no doubt about that.
I guess it's the first mover advantage, the strong local brand you've got, the exceptional levels of customer service that you provide. It all sort of comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, our customer offer is monthly fuss-free rolling contracts. So literally pay what you see, leave at any time. And actually, when we introduced that fuss-free monthly rolling offer just coming up 3 years ago now, our churn rate actually dropped slightly, the opposite of what you would expect. And what that says is once you get a customer, if you serve them well, don't give them a reason to leave, they're going to stay.
That's really interesting insight. And the contract length is really interesting. I was in Iceland a couple of years ago and looking at how they were operating, and everybody there, it's all rolling 30-day
Yeah.
contracts. So it's easier to acquire customers because people aren't tied into long contracts.
I'm not sure why the churn went down. I think it's as simple as you send out the end of contract notification. You tell them, hey, it's monthly rolling. Oh, and your price hasn't gone up. And they go, all right, well, I'll just stick with it. And when I get a moment, I'll go and shop around because I'm not tied in for another 24 months. And they never get around to shopping around because you don't give them a reason to.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. So churn was the final thing we really wanted to explore with you because, we've looked and benchmarked the sort of churn and altnets appear to be pretty much not quite half, but much, much lower than some of the incumbents, but slightly on the rise. So where are you sort of seeing your churn?
I mean, our churn historically, well, for the last few years has been down at 6.5%. A little spike recently, I say a spike up to 7%. Price rise time causes people to shop around. But, we don't have any contractually binding price increases because you're monthly rolling. If you don't like the price increase, you can leave. It makes our marketing much simpler. None of this, pay this now and pay this next April and pay Y the April after. Very simple, straightforward proposition. And yes, we do annual price increases. I think there are a few out there who are making a big deal out of not having monthly price increases, but the reality of the world is everyone's costs are increasing. It's inevitable that at some point you're going to have to start doing price increases. So making too much hay now about not doing it
Yeah.
might come back to bite you in a couple of years' time.
But as you say, you're just doing rolling monthly contracts, so people have got the choice.
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. When we spoke before, you said your service levels are really high, and again, that's part of your whole reputation. So you're getting good NPS scores, and
Yeah, and net promoter scores that really are sky high, routinely in the 60s and 70s. Not just our own internal surveys, but we're a member of the Institute of Customer Service. They come along and independently survey our customers, and in fact, their score comes out even higher than our own internal surveys. So when you got customer satisfaction that high, you know you're doing a good job, and it's why our churn rate is so low. The main reason our churn rate is so low. An interesting stat on the churn. So it's 7%. Half of that churn, and this is a problem that other altnets have, are people who move outside of our footprint and we can no longer serve them. Or with our older demographic on the island, sadly, people who move into care homes or
yeah.
who pass away. So the underlying churn rate there, 3.5%.
Yeah, you can do nothing about that. I think there's a lot of people who'd be very happy with an underlying churn rate of 3.5%. John, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. You've got some really impressive results there. Great penetration compared to your peers. Really strong churn performance as well. So it sounds like exciting times and continued growth. So thanks very much for your time.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I'm off back down one of the lovely sandy beaches we have here on the Isle of Wight now.
It's been a
See
long
you
time
later.
since I've been to the Isle of Wight, but you have inspired me to come back. So if only to try out your fibre broadband. Thanks very much, John.
Thank you.